What if you could get your hands on a top secret training manual from a senior demon? A playbook that details step by step the most effective strategies for tempting a human soul. Well, that's exactly what we're about to do using C.S. Lewis's classic, The Screwtape Letters, as our guide. Now, before we dive into these diabolical secrets, Lewis sets a really crucial ground rule right up front. He's not trying to get us all obsessed with demons. Instead, he's using this totally inverted perspective as a brilliant mirror to show us our own subtle flaws and weaknesses from an angle we'd never normally see. It's a tool for self-reflection, not sensationalism. And this is the premise, which is just irresistible, right? We get to be a fly on the wall reading the private mail between a demonic middle manager named Screwtape and his nephew, Wormwood, who's a total rookie on his very first assignment. It's basically a masterclass in the psychology of temptation. So here's how we're going to break down this playbook. First, we'll meet the key players in this little drama. Then we'll get into Screwtape's most surprising strategy, harnessing the power of the ordinary. After that, we'll see how he turns human relationships into weapons, wages a war for the mind, and finally reveals his grand strategy, the safest road to hell. Okay, first things first. We need to get the lay of the land and understand the players in this whole diabolical bureaucracy. Let's meet our tempters. So, you've got Screwtape. He's the experienced, cynical, and very easily annoyed uncle. He's writing to Wormwood, his nephew, who is kind of messing up his first case. Their target is just called the patient, this ordinary young guy living in Britain during the war. And, this is key, whenever they say the enemy, they're talking about God. This inverted language is everything. Now, you'd probably think a demon's first move would be some huge, dramatic sin, right? But Screwtape's first lesson is so much more subtle than that. It is all about the power of the ordinary. Screwtape explains that there's been a big strategic shift in hell. He tells Wormwood, forget about trying to win an argument. The old way, using logic and reason, is actually dangerous because it wakes up the human's brain. The modern way is way better. Just distract them with jargon and the endless stream of real life. The heart of the strategy is right here. Keep the human's mind completely fixed on the immediate stuff. The bus is going by, the news of the day, the noise in the street. Screwtape says to train the human to call this constant flow real life, so that any deeper, more profound thoughts feel abstract and, well, kind of silly and unreal. And to prove his point, Screwtape tells the story of a past victory. He had this atheist patient who, while reading in a museum, suddenly started to question everything he believed. The enemy was this close. But instead of jumping in with an argument, Screwtape just whispered, it's about time for lunch. And once the man was back on the street, the simple sight of a bus and a newsboy was all it took. The realness of the street made all those profound thoughts seem like a fantasy. He literally felt like he'd had a lucky escape from what he called mere logic. Okay, so if distraction is the first line of attack, the second one moves a lot closer to home. Screwtape teaches Wormwood how to turn the very people closest to the patient into weapons against him. The most fertile ground for temptation isn't a dark alley or a casino, it's the family breakfast table. Screwtape's advice is to forget about causing big, dramatic fights. No, instead the goal is to create this low-grade, constant state of mutual annoyance through tiny daily irritations, these little pinpricks. And here are the tactics, and they are just deviously relatable. Make the patient so focused on his own inner life that he completely ignores obvious duties like just being nice to his mom. Then twist his prayers for her into just a list of all her annoying habits that he wants God to fix. And the best one, create a total double standard where the patient judges his own words by their intention, but his mother's words by the absolute worst possible interpretation of her tone. This whole strategy of corruption goes way beyond just the family. Screwtape lays out this brilliant, horrible three-step process for taking something good, like patriotism or a social cause, and twisting it. Step 1, get the human to see the cause as part of his faith. Step 2, slowly elevate it until it's the most important part of his faith. And then, step 3, the final flip, where his faith becomes just a useful tool for promoting the cause. At that point, the cause is his real master, not the enemy. So, from the external world of people and causes, the playbook now moves to the final battleground, the patient's own mind and his spiritual life. The main demonic strategy for prayer is shockingly simple, and it is devastatingly effective. It's to stop the human from actually talking to the enemy, and instead to turn prayer into an exercise in self-analysis. The goal here is to get the patient to stop asking for something and instead to start trying to manufacture the feeling of it inside himself. Then he judges how good his prayer was by how well he produced the feeling he wanted, completely forgetting that he's supposed to be talking to someone else. This all leads to a fascinating general rule. During any activity that helps hell's cause, like lust or anger, the tempter should keep the human totally focused outward on the thing he desires or hates. He should be completely unself-conscious. But during any activity that favors the enemy, like prayer or kindness, the tempter should bend the human's mind back on itself, making him hyper-aware and analytical of his own feelings. And now we get to the final, and maybe the most profound and chilling part of the playbook. This is Screwtape's ultimate philosophy, his grand strategy for damnation. Here it is. This is the great paradox of Screwtape's teaching. He tells Wormwood that all the young, rookie tempters are so eager to report some spectacular, dramatic sin. But that's a huge mistake. The real path to victory is much, much quieter. The logic is simple. The real goal isn't some dramatic fall from grace that might shock the human into repenting. No, the real aim is a slow, steady, almost invisible drift. A whole series of tiny choices, small compromises, and minor sins that over a lifetime just edge the person away from the light, often without him even realizing he's changed direction. And this is so often achieved not through evil acts, but through nothing. Screwtape just raves about the power of nothing to steal a person's life away. Not with big pleasures, but with this pointless haze of distraction, endless scrolling, getting lost in daydreams, putting things off, until you look back and realize you spent your whole life doing neither what you were supposed to do, nor even what you really wanted to do. So the diabolical calculation becomes pretty clear when you lay it out like this. Big, spectacular sins are high risk. They can wake up a person's conscience and lead to repentance. But the gradual slope? That's low risk. The person is never alarmed. The journey is quiet, it's comfortable, and it's all the more secure for it. And this is the final, chilling summary of Screwtape's entire philosophy. The most reliable path to damnation is the one that doesn't even feel like a path. It's just a gentle slope, so easy to walk on that you never even notice you're heading down. Which leaves us with a final and pretty unavoidable question. If Screwtape's most effective tool is the gradual, unnoticed slope, the one that has no warning signs, it really forces us to ask ourselves, where might those gentle slopes be in our own lives today?